This Sunday, the 14th of June, marks 3 years since the tragic fire that happened at Grenfell. Every month on the 14th, people in this community come and do a silent walk in order to remember those whose lives were lost. But since the coronavirus pandemic has meant that people have had to lock down, those walks have not been able to take place. I thought it would be important today to come and speak to some people who were affected directly by what happened, to ask them how things have changed 3 years on.
As we come up to the third anniversary, it coinciding with Covid-19, as a group of people in Grenfell, we experience this acute trauma and loss, and seeing that playing out on a wider scale over the country is really, really difficult.
At the time of the fire, I had 2 children. They were 9 and 7 at that time. They've been very resilient. Of course, initially they were in a lot of shock, but they're very open, they talk a lot. But they do have their times where they struggle, especially at nighttime. Like nighttime, even up until yesterday, is an issue. They have their own rooms, but they end up sleeping in the same bed most nights.
Do you find it difficult to come down here?
I think at first I did, but now that it's kind of wrapped, I find it quite peaceful.
What are the main things for you as somebody who's been affected by all of this and is involved in this movement that you want to see happen?
The materials off all the buildings. 3 years later, those materials should not still be on buildings. We know they're non-compliant, we know they're dangerous, we know they're deadly. Why are they still on buildings?
I would have thought within the first 6 months, that they would have eradicated all of that. But 3 years later, we're still fighting for, cladding to be removed.
Grenfell 2's in the post. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen. The failings from Grenfell by the government have kind of reenacted themselves in Covid-19. I mean, the indifference comes through the way we were treated as a community in Grenfell by the local authority and the government, in Covid in the wider country by their failure to lock down early. Victim blaming in that we were told that it was our fault that we didn't have sprinklers, by Rees-Mogg that it was our fault, we didn't use our common sense to get out of the building. And you see that echoed when the health minister turns around and accuses the frontline NHS staff of using up PPE, too much PPE.
Obviously, we've got the pandemic happening, that's one situation, but on top of that, there's also, the movement around the Black Lives Matter. And you see people at the protest wearing Grenfell t-shirts. Mm-hmm. Do you see that these two things are aligned?
No, absolutely. When you look at the makeup of Grenfell Tower, majority of the people in Grenfell were ethnic minorities, And as I said, 3 years has gone past, not much has changed. I feel like if there were white people that were living in the tower, if it was in a different part of the borough as well, I think that we would have got a lot more further, in regards to justice and just change.
I think, Grenfell fits at the heart of Black Lives Matter in a way. Serious questions need to be asked and serious pressure needs to be put on the government as to why they haven't acted faster. I think Windrush, Grenfell, Covid, all these things tie into a kind of a narrative that is about injustice and inequality.
Every month on the 14th, there is the silent walk.
Yep.
I've been to a few of them, and there's nothing like it. It's not like any other protest. It's not like any other movement I've ever seen. For you, how important is being able to go out and go on that walk every month?
Definitely, it's really important because it's a way for us to remember. It's a way for us to show them we're still here. Okay, we might not be protesting at this point. We might not be making noise, but we're still here. So for us, it's being visible. So for me, the fact that we haven't been able to be visible since March, we haven't had a silent walk since February, it's quite upsetting, but we're in a pandemic, so what can you do? Just for us to gather together and to be together is always an important occasion, Those are the only people that went through what I went through. And it's important to mark the occasion. I'm happy that we're all going to still be able to be together, but there's nothing like being together physically,
Grenfell United and Grenfell Silent Walk have organised digital events on Sunday to commemorate the 3rd year anniversary. Amongst other things, this includes a remembrance event at 6 p.m, which will be available on the Grenfell United YouTube page.